Hello there, Braden Smith here from Learn to Play the Fiddle. This is a follow-up video to the video I made on playing rolls in Irish fiddle music, a really important form of ornamentation. If you haven't already watched that video, I made a whole long video on the technique of playing long rolls. And in this video, I'm going to be showing you how you can put them into a particular tune, a jig by Paddy Fahey. If you haven't already watched the other video on long rolls, do go and watch that first, because I'm going to be assuming in this video that you already know the techniques that I was teaching in that video. I'll put a card in the screen so that you can find that one and a link in the description. But in this video, we're going to be talking about a particular jig. We're going to learn the tune first, and then once we've learned the tune, we'll look at where we might put rolls in this particular tune. So this is a jig by the great fiddle player and tune writer Paddy Fahey, who's from East Galway and wrote hundreds of lovely fiddle tunes. If you play a lot of fiddle tunes, you may already play some of his, maybe even if you don't even know. But he wrote wonderful tunes and didn't name any of them. So we just call them all Paddy Fahey's jig, even though there are 40 or 50 Paddy Fahey jigs and reels and more besides. But there is a sort of numbering system which some people use. The tune that we're going to learn today is a jig, and I think it's commonly known as number 4. And it's a lovely tune in A Dorian. Don't worry if that doesn't mean anything to you. We're going to learn the tune bar by bar, measure by measure. I'll take you through it slowly. And then in the second half of this video, we'll talk about where we might put some ornamentation. So we're going to be talking about playing some rolls. That's the main purpose of this video, is to talk about where we might put rolls into a tune. But we'll also add some other things, some slides, some chords and things like that. And I've got videos on those other forms of ornamentation as well if you want to go and check them out. Great, so let's get into the tune then. This is a jig, so we're in 6/8, and that means we've got 6 beats in each bar, 6 short beats in each bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Dum did dee, dum did dee. Or bacon and sausages is the other thing I tell my students. Bacon and sausages, bacon and sausages. As long as you can feel that dum did dee, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can either count it in numbers or use words, or just go did. Doesn't matter how you do it, as long as you can feel those 2 groups of 3. Dum diddy, like that. Bacon and sausages. So that's the rhythm of this tune. I'll play you through the whole tune once through, just so you can hear how it goes. I'm going to play it with all the normal kinds of ornamentation that I might use in this tune, and then we'll slow it down, just look at the melody. So don't worry if you can't follow along straight away. So here's Paddy Fahey's jig number 4. I'll play it through for you a couple of times through with all the kinds of ornamentation that I might normally use in this tune. But don't worry if you can't follow all that straight away. Obviously, we're going to break the tune down just to take it slowly, just the melody, and learn it bit by bit before we start putting in all the bells and whistles in the second half of this video. So here's the tune through twice. So let's start breaking this tune down so we can start to learn the melody. I'm going to assume here that you're happy to learn tunes by ear, but I have also got sheet music for this, and if you would like to have a look at the sheet music, you can go to my website, learntoplaythefiddle.co.uk, and I'll put the sheet music up there, and you can find that. I'll put a link in the description as well. And so if you do read music and you want to follow this along with the sheet music, you can do that. I've got two versions of this sheet music, one just the melody, so you can follow along the way that I play this melody, but also a version with some suggestions about kinds of ornaments that you might put in, and bowing suggestions as well. All of these things, obviously they're all personal. This is just the one way that I might play this tune, and obviously we're always looking to vary the way that we play tunes as we play them through. So none of that is, you don't have to play it that way. You can take the bits you like, leave the bits you don't. That's all. It's subjective. But if you're interested in the sheet music, then you can go and find that and have a look. But I'm going to take you through the tune in this video, learning the tune by ear. So we're going to take it bar by bar, phrase by phrase, and build up that way. So let's get started. So we're going to start on the second finger on the A string. I said that we're in A Dorian. That means we've got C naturals in this tune. That's C natural with the second finger back. So bear that in mind as we learn this tune. So we're going to start on that C. And this is our first bar. We're going to take it slowly to start with. Play that one more time for you, and then I'll show you up close. Remember what I was saying about we've got 6 beats in the bar, and in this bar we've got 6 notes, 1 per beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do that one more time. And I can show you that up close. We're going to move on to the next measure, the next bar. But if you haven't got that already, then you can pause the video, keep going back until you've worked that first bar out. The second bar, we're again starting on that second finger, that C natural. One more time. Going up this time to the high A on the E string. Great. Let's show you that once up close, and then we'll start to put these things together. So that second bar, starting on that C natural again. One more time. So we'll put those 2 bars together now, keeping the view up close so you can see what I'm doing, and putting those 2 bars together. Now coming back to the first bar. And let's do that one more time. Great stuff. Moving on to the third bar, which also starts on that C natural, the same second finger on the A string. One more time. So this is our first rhythmic change in the tune. So far we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1 note per beat in the first 2 bars. In this bar we've got a longer note. So we've got 3 quavers or 8th notes, and then a quarter note or a crotchet. So if you're counting that, we're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A bit high for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like so. Just count with me while I play it. Great. That's going up to the G on the E string, by the way, that long note. Fantastic. So we're going to put those 3 bars together now. We're going to do that one more time, but if you haven't got that yet, you can go back, make sure you've got each of those bars individually first and then put them together. So one more time. For now I'm playing each note with a separate bow, so one bow per note, but we can talk about putting in some slurs, slurring more than one note in the same bow once we've got the melody. Once we're starting to talk about ornamentation and bowing and things, I'll suggest some places where you might slur some notes together. So adding the final bar of this first phrase, which we're now, the first bar that's not starting on that C natural, we're now going to start on the third finger, the D. So, one more time. I'll just play that again for you. If you've heard me talk in other videos about the importance of scales and triads, this is an example of a bar which uses one bit which is a scale, stepping down by single note degrees. First of all, the triad rather. Stepping down by thirds, and then the second part a scale. So let's start putting all of that first 4-bar phrase together. So this is a 2-part jig. The first part has got 8 bars which we repeat, and the second part has got 8 bars which we repeat. So far we've now learned 4 bars, so we've learned the first half of the first half. So coming back to the beginning, see if you can play along with me. Great stuff. If you haven't got that, then pause and go back until you've worked all of that bit out, because we're going to move on to the second half of the A part. The second half of the A part starts exactly the same way as the first half did, so you've already learned quite a lot of it. So the first couple of bars, that's all the same so far, just one change at the end of this bar. So this time ending on the G, and again we've got a long note there on the high A. 4, 5, 6. We'll do that one more time. Great, I'll show you that all up close just once so that you can get that. Just that last bar again. Great, so I'm just going to play you what we've got so far. This will be the first 6 bars of the tune, just so you can see how it all fits together. Great. So, the last couple of bars in the A part then. We've got to start these last couple of bars, we're going to have a long note on the F sharp on the E string. That's that first finger on the E string, and we're going to hold this note now for 3 beats. So, if we've got a bar that goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're going to hold this first note for the whole of the first 3. So it's going to go like this. 1, 2, 3. And again a little scale down. Play that one more time for you. So make sure when you're playing that you're counting that first note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, you don't have to use numbers, you can just go da 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 da, as long as you know that that first note is going to take 3 beats. Just show you that up close. So 1, 2, 3. One more time. Great. So now we're going to learn the last bar of the A part, which shouldn't be hard because we've already learned it. that one that I said steps down in thirds first of all, and then up in a scale. Don't worry if these words don't mean anything to you, it doesn't matter as long as you can hear the melody. So you'll remember that that was also our fourth bar. So putting the whole A part together, see if you can play along. Great stuff. Again, if you haven't got that, go back and make sure that you've really nailed all those different parts first, so that you can play it at that sort of speed, and gradually we'll talk about building the speed up as well. So we're going to get the whole melody before we talk about ornamentation, so we're going to go and look at the B part now, but stick around and I'll talk about where we might put some rolls, some slides, some chords and other things towards the end of this video. So the B part of Paddy Fahey's jig number 4 starts the same way as the A part did, with this little scale down from that C natural, like that. And now we're going to go up to that high A and we're going to hold that note for 3 beats again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. One more time. Fantastic. So, our next measure. One more time. So I'll show you those 2 bars up close. So, first bar. One more time. Lovely. So our third bar in the B part, we've already learned from the A part. So you'll remember that one that goes up to the high G and holds it for two beats. Brilliant. And the next bar we've also already learned from the A part. We're coming back to that bar that comes down in thirds and then up in a scale. So putting all of this section together so far. It's actually just those first 2 bars that are new that you need to learn. So and then the next bit you've already got from the A part. Great stuff. So tunes always get much faster once you've got the A part, because very often they recycle bits, or at least you're kind of getting into the scale of the tune by that point. So that's the first 4 bars of the B part, and the next 4 bars starts the same way, with that long A again. So one more time. That's 4, 5, 6 on that A, and then the next bar, and this is back to parts from the A part that you know. So that second half of the B part is all composed of bits that have come up previously in the tune. So I'll just show you the whole B part played at that speed up close so you can see. So from the beginning of the B part. Great work. So that's the whole melody that we've learned now. I'm going to play it through for you once at that sort of speed with no ornamentation, just nice and clean, so that you can play along. I'm going to play it with all the repeats. So the A part repeats once, the B part repeats once. So we play the A part twice, the B part twice, and then we go back to the A part again. I'm going to play the whole tune for you just once through, so that you can play along nice and slowly. So from the beginning. And it sounds a bit weird to finish it there with that rising phrase at the end. It doesn't feel resolved. It doesn't feel that like the tune has finished. So I almost always put a little sort of final phrase on the end to make it feel a bit more finished. If you were going from this tune into another tune in a set of tunes, then you would obviously be just moving into another tune, so this wouldn't apply. But if you're playing this tune on its own, or you're playing it at the end of a set of tunes, you might want to add something on so that it feels like the tune has just rounded off properly. Because if you finish with this phrase here, it's almost like we're kind of left hanging in midair. And the reason for that, if you're interested, is that we haven't come back to the note, that the key note that this tune is in. So I said at the very beginning that this tune is in A Dorian. So in order for the tune to feel finished, there are various things we can do, but the most common thing we can do is go back to the key note, in this case is A. So if we find our way back to the A, the tune will feel more finished. So what we can do is just walk down the scale until we get to the A. Something like that. And I would probably play 2 of those A's. And that feels a little bit more finished. We'll talk a little bit later about what we can do to make that feel even more resolved when we can come on to talking about chords, because there's a chord that we can play there that will make this really feel like this tune has wrapped up. But you can look at what chords I play in this tune at that point in the video. So great stuff. We've learned the whole melody for this Paddy Fahey jig. At the moment, maybe it feels a little bit metronomic, a little bit sort of steady. We might want to give it a bit more swing. I've made a whole video about playing jigs with lilt, with swing, so you can go and find that. But for now, one of the easiest things that we can do is start to add some bowing patterns into this jig. So we're just going to talk, before we talk about ornamentation, we're just going to talk briefly about where we might put some slurs into this tune. Slurs, in case you're not familiar with that word, is just playing 2 notes or more notes, more than 1 note in one bow. So playing 1 bow but more than 1 note. And in this tune, I'm just going to make some suggestions about where we can put some slurs in this tune. I'm not going to go into great detail about bowing patterns in jigs in this video. There'll be another video about jig bowing patterns. But for now, I just want to make some suggestions about places where we might put some slurs. So I'll just play the tune through and I'll pause and show you where I'm where I would often, not always, maybe, you know, this is just one example of how I might play this tune, but it's good to have a look at what sort of bowing patterns you might use. So in this tune, one of the things I do very frequently is slur between the last note of one bar and the first note of the next bar. So in the A part, slurring there into that first note of the next measure or bar. For example, like that. And you can do the same thing between the next two bars as well. There again. So I'll play you that first few bars again so you can hear that. And again. So just slurring those two, the last note of one bar into the first note of the next bar. In the next phrase, I'll often slur that high G note, that longer note, into the next note, into the E. That's one option. Or alternatively, you could slur that E into the next bar. Like that. So again, that would be the last note of one bar into the first note of the next bar. But probably more commonly I'll slur the G and the E together. Like that. Maybe keeping all of those notes separate. Or if I was putting a slur in, I might slur the last two notes in that bar. For example. So playing that whole first A part phrase. Something like that. Alternatively, you could slur the very last note of that 4-bar phrase into the first note of the next phrase. And that gives you a really strong join between the two phrases. So, that's the first half of the A part, the bowing. In the second half you could do some of the same things. That's the same as we did the first time. And then this high A, again I'll often slur out of that, like so. So just joining those two notes together in one bow. And then the final phrases, maybe keeping most of that separate. So nice and easy. So that's a suggestion about how you might put some slurs into the A part. Let's have a quick look at the B part. So many of the same things are going to apply because the same phrases apply. You could change them up or you could keep them the same, that's up to you. So I'll often slur into that high A. Now this is an example of slurring not between two bars but between two of those groups of three. So we're playing 1, 2, 3, slurring the 3 into the 4. Like so. So that would sound like. One more time. And moving on to the next phrase, it's the same as the A part. So again, you could do it the same way as however you played it in the A part. Like so. Or you could change it if you wanted to. Or keep it all separate. And again, you could do the slur. You could slur between the two 4-bar phrases. And again, you could slur in the same way as we did in the A part. You could slur out of that high A note, like so. All of these are personal choices. And then the final phrase is the same as in the A part, so we could do the same thing. Just keep it all separate, or we could change it up. Maybe we could slur out of that long F sharp. So then we're going to be playing 4 beats in the one bow, because we've got 3 beats for the first note. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 4 beats in the first bow. That's going to be a long bow, at least at this speed. As you speed the tune up, that will get easier in a way, because you won't have to hold the bow for quite so long. So let's play through the whole B part just with some of those bowing patterns, and you can have a go at following. Great, so that's just some suggestions about where you might put slurs into this tune. As I said before, you don't have to do all or any of them. It's very personal where you put your slurs, but that's a suggestion, one way that I might bow this. One of the other things that I'm doing there when I'm playing those slurs is what I call mid-bow emphasis. If you're interested in that, I'll be making a video about that. You can find out all about what I mean when I say that, and how that gives a tune a real sense of pulse and drive. But don't worry about that now. If you just work out some of those bowing patterns, it will really start to give the tune some shape. Great, so in this next section in the video, I want to talk about ornamentation, which is kind of where we started from, and long rolls in particular. And where we might put them in this tune. And there are a few places in particular where I would pretty frequently put long rolls. And that's basically on long notes. So in order to play a long roll, we need a bit of time. The note has to be fairly long in order for us to have time to play that ornament. So in this tune, you've got a few places where you can do that. And we're going to have a look at them. So in the A part, towards the end of the A part, so the second half of the A part, so that's the second half of the A part, you've got this long note on that first finger F sharp on the E string. So that first finger on the top string, you're going to hold that note for 3 beats. 1, 2, 3. So you've got some time there, and this is where you might put a long roll. In jigs, at least, long rolls, you're going to normally play them on notes that are 3 beats long, so that are held for a long note. Not always. It's not the only thing. It's not the only place you might put them, but it's going to be the most common. So it's where I would start out if you're just learning where to put your ornaments. That's where I would start looking. So look at jigs that you already play, or you can find some tutorials for jigs that I'm teaching here, and have a look and see if there are any notes that you're holding for 3 beats. So for a full half a bar. It's going to be particularly true, and this is going to be the most common. It's going to be the most common situation where the note is on the beat. Because it's 3 beats long, it's almost always going to be on the beat. So it's going to either start on the 1, 2, 3, so it's going to start on the 1, or it's going to start on the 4, 4, 5, 6. So any place where you've got that in a jig, you can probably play a long roll. So in this tune, we've got that on an F sharp on that first finger, and we're going to play a long roll there. So it's going to sound like this. I'll do that one more time for you. Like so. I'll show you that up close. Again, I'll play the whole phrase so you can hear it in context. So if you haven't learned to play your long rolls that quickly yet, you could still try and put them in playing this tune slowly. So then it would go like this. Really work on building up the speed of the roll itself, so that you can hold that first note as long as you possibly can. You want to be holding the F sharp note and leaving the roll itself right to the end if you can. So one more time, the rhythm goes like this. So holding the note, da dum da da dum. So really seeing how long you can hold that first note. One more time. So try and build that speed up. Put it into that spot in the tune. And that will come with a bit of practice. Practice the rolls separately in isolation until you can play them nice and quickly, and then you'll be able to drop them into this tune. In the B part, we've also got some long notes, and in this instance, they fall on to third fingers. The third finger on the E string, that high A. So that's 4, 5, 6 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So again, we can play that as a roll, but it's going to be a third finger roll now. So you're going to want your second finger down, probably in the G natural position, although it could be in the G sharp position, it doesn't matter too much, but probably in the G natural position. And so then you're going to have your third finger down, and you're going to cut with the fourth finger. So then that's going to go like so. Like so. One more time. Like that. And you can do that in both instances in this B part where that happens at the beginning of both 4-bar phrases. And you'll have heard there that because that phrase from the A part repeats in the end of the B part, I'll play the same long roll there as well. So the second half of the B part, you can have a long roll here and here. So the whole of that B part one more time. Great stuff. Don't worry if you find those rolls difficult. That will come with practice. In particular, don't worry if you find that third finger roll difficult. Most people find the third finger rolls trickier. I guess that's because for most people the little finger, the pinky finger, isn't quite as strong or as dexterous as our other fingers. Don't tend to use it for as much. And so if you find that third finger roll tricky, it's probably because that fourth finger isn't quite as strong or as mobile as the other fingers. But work on it, it'll come. And yeah, a bit of practice just on just the rolls themselves. As I showed in the previous video, there's good ways to practice them, and gradually that speed will come. So just to finish off, I want to talk about a couple of other ornaments that you could put into this tune besides those rolls. Particularly I want to talk about a couple of places where I might put a slide in. If you are interested in the more detail about the technique of playing slides, I've made a video about that. You can go and have a look at that. I'm not going to go into the detail of how to do them here, but just where I might put them into this particular tune. So in the A part of this tune, where you go up to that high G, that note there, which lands on a beat, and we're holding it for a little bit longer than just a 1 beat note. It's 2 beats. So we've got a little bit of time there, and we can emphasize it a bit by putting a slide in there. It's quite a fun effect. So I might play that, no, maybe not always, maybe just sometimes, but the same thing happens in the B part, so you could also play it in the B part. Like so. So that's one thing that you could add into this tune. The other thing that you could do is sometimes you could replace those long rolls with 2 notes with a cut between them. This isn't something I do very often, but it's certainly something you could do. So for example, in the A part, the second half of the A part, like so. And if you're interested in learning to play cuts, I've made a video about that too. So that's a possible replacement for the roll. Particularly if you're finding the roll a bit too difficult to play at speed, that's one option. You could play those 2 notes with a cut between instead. Finally, you could also look at putting some chords or drones into this tune. One of the things you could do, for example, is you could replace that long roll on that high A by playing an A chord, so playing the A string underneath that high A note. So you could play that instead. For example, you could also put that A note underneath those long F sharps as well, where again you could leave out the roll and just play an A F sharp chord instead. So that would be like, let's take the second half of the A part. That would be an option. If you want to get a bit more fancy, rather than using the open strings on those high Gs where we were talking about putting a slide, you could put a first finger B instead. So that would be, it's a bit more fancy. Not something I do very often, but you certainly could. Adds quite a different sort of tonal flavour to this tune. As I say, it's not something I would do very often, but you certainly could do that. Probably the most significant chord that I use in this tune is a chord to finish the tune, and I'll almost always do this. So in the final phrase of the tune, we talked about adding a little walk down to that A, so just going from the end of the B part we talked about walking down to the A to resolve the tune, and very often I'll do that, but I'll add an E on the D string underneath to give it a really nice meaty chord. And now we really do feel like we've finished the tune in a nice way. Just show you what I'm doing there up close. Just adding that first finger on the D string underneath the open A string. In order to do that, you will have to arch your finger over, make sure that that finger is clear of the A string, so that you can play that A string nicely with that first finger down. I'll go into a bit more detail about the technique for playing chords in another video. I want to just add one final thing before we play this tune through. Normally if I'm starting this tune, I won't actually start it on that first note that we learned. I'll add what are called a pickup or a couple of pickup notes. They're kind of like a little introduction, and they come before the first beat of the tune. Many tunes it makes sense to do this because just jumping in on the beat feels a bit abrupt. We kind of want a little lead in. So with this tune, the little lead in I would use is very simple. I'll just walk up from the A to that C natural that we're going to start on. Like so. And just a word about the rhythm of those. Because they come before the first beat of the bar, they can almost be You can almost take as much time over them as you want, as long as when you start the tune, the tune has its clear first beat, and those other two notes kind of exist outside the timing of the tune. You can play them in exactly the same tempo as the rest of the tune. So if the tempo was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you're going to be coming in on 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like so. But you can also just take a bit more time over them. And so on. It's just a little introduction to take us into the first note of the tune. Great, so there's lots and lots to be thinking about playing this tune. I hope that you've managed to work out the melody and drop some of those ornaments in as well. I'm going to play the whole tune through for you with all those ornaments so that you can play along. If you can't do all of them now, don't worry, you can do the bits that you can do and gradually learn the other bits of technique, and you can start coming back and dropping those things in as and when you've worked them out. So here's Paddy Fahey's jig number 4 with a whole load of bowing and ornamentation and everything for you to play along with. Here we go. So I really hope you got a lot out of that video and that you're enjoying learning Paddy Fahey's jig. I'll be making lots more videos, tune tutorials, tips and tricks, videos on ornamentation and bowing and all sorts of other things besides. So please do subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you again. Take care. Bye bye.